Review and approve minutes for the July 11th, 2024 meeting. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Motion to approve. Motion by Charlie, second by Paul. All in favor, aye. Aye. Motion passes. Audience of visitors. Anybody on line or in the audience wish to speak? Go ahead.
Come up there.
Yeah.
You made your chair?
Get closer to the mic that way.
So, hi, I'm KJ Jacobson. I'm a resident of Vernon County. I attended the preliminary hearing on the changes to the rules about financial assurance. And based on the discussion, I don't know if it was here at the board meeting, the DNR very clearly said that municipal landfills should continue to retain long-term funds until explicit DNR authorization to release them. And if you're going to apply for net worth, it's not a guarantee. There's a 12-point test for private landfills. It's likely that they'll use those same 12 criteria for municipal landfills, but they haven't even written the rules yet. But you're going to have a CPA perform the test and report it to them. They estimate the cost of that will be around $5,000 every year for doing that. They have to set the rules by November 1st. What they're calling them emergency rules, even though it's not an emergency, and then they have till 2027 to finalize those rules. But they expect a lot of applications, so don't expect that November 1st you're going to pass the test and be able to release those funds. It's most likely going to be sometime next year if you pass the test. If you fail one criteria, you fail the test. So I'm also just going to report to you that I'm working on a more detailed 10-year analysis of the finances. I need older data for breaking down between solid waste and recycling. But for the last 3 years, even taking out depreciation, which should not be taken out, you have lost 11.5 thousand in 2021, 95.5 thousand in 2022. That was 18,000 tons, 17,000 tons. 15,000 tons in 2023 lost $291,282. Now that's unaudited, and I allocated 100,000 of the insurance against expenses, operating expenses. But that's a conservative estimate. So now your tonnage has gone down, and I have yet to hear a decent discussion here or at the county board meeting on the fact that you are going down the tube financially with this landfill operation. And I really urge you to have an honest discussion about the fact that you're losing more and more and more money. And one more point, the DNR also there was a final comment period. They've revamped the whole NR 500 through 5-something rules. They went through all the rules and they've updated them, and there's going to be higher tonnage fees, higher license fees, leachate pipes are going to have to be bigger for any new construction. There's a whole bunch of additional new costs that are coming down the pike. I'm not sure when those rules will be finalized, but the comment period was for an economic analysis, economic impact analysis, which is kind of the final phase of rulemaking. So probably by the end of the year, those rules are going to change. So you should be aware of those additional costs. And the hearing will be posted online. I'll send you guys. I looked for it last night. They hadn't posted it yet, but you should listen to it. It's a short hearing where they explain what the rules for financial assurance, how they're going to change. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else wish to make a comment? Seeing none. Matt, you're up.
Okay, first thing, we'll run through our expense report. You can see our sanitary permits, were up, from last year, but kind of right about where we are. You know, the last year we were down about 10% from the peak, being 2019 to 2022 was kind of our peak in those income, our main income driver, which is our sanitary permits. So, but we're hanging in there right around what we were last year, 73 as opposed to 61. And I mean, our soil and site evaluations are the same, about the same also. So our numbers are very similar to last year. Building's still going really, really strong. So you can see in our financial numbers where for our income, last month, we had 21,500 roughly. And 2023, we had 25,900, but that was due to, we sold that truck in 2023, that 2007 Ford Ranger. That's that 3750 for reconnect or other fees. That's where that got rolled into. So for the year, we're up on income, $75,666, as opposed to last year we had 7,346. So we're still up over $2,000 from last year, even with the truck rolled in. So we've had a lot of permits come in, a lot of, you know, you can see our sanitary permit fees are up about $6,000 over last year. Expenses, you know, we're holding in there. We're at the 6-month mark, June would be. So you figure 50% of your funds would be allocated, or your expenses would be allocated. And we're at 48% of our expenses, with 55% of the budgeted revenue.
Is there a reason there's such a disparity in the fuel maintenance from one year to the next? Like, is there?
We had that combined a little bit. We parsed that out because I had, you can see the rental lease line item.
Yeah.
That was all combined, and I should have probably broke that out. But if you add those two up, we're fairly close to that, you know.
Just didn't know if that was going to somebody.
And yeah, and that fuel maintenance had the old truck in, so we had expenses with that. Yeah, and that's the reason we got rid of that clunker, was because it was costing us so much money, you know.
In the retirement, the county share, it's like basically 5,000, which is, you know, considerably lower
Than what was budgeted.
Is that less wages, or is that just waiting to be paid and hasn't been paid yet?
It's just, you know, I don't know why we budgeted that high. That was kind of a canned number that was put in there. You know, I believe we're due that raise, so that may have been budgeted in on that. I'm not sure. That was kind of numbers that finance director gave me. So yeah, that's what I went off of.
Enough said.
But, you know, just not to point fingers or anything, but yeah, we're under that.
Yeah.
But which is fine.
The phone, did you do something different last year versus?
Last year we probably had tablets in there.
Oh.
Yeah, we purchased those tablets. That's why that's.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that'll offset your health insurance, because that's going to be more than budgeted.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's good you got something different there.
Yep. Yeah. Those numbers change a little bit until you get something settled on. We're in the budgeting process right now. We're getting rough budget numbers together. So, I'm going to be kind of going off of what I've got so far this year to budget for next year. So that's the danger of budgeting.
How much is going to go up?
Yeah, that's the danger of budgeting early is, you got to kind of have a crystal ball a little bit too on things. So.
Any other questions?
So I'll run through my administrator's report real quick, and then I attached, as kind of part of my administrator's report, what the interns have been up to. So, cab cases, we knocked off 2 cab cases last month. We're right around 30 left, rolling through them. Like I said before, we're at all the tough cases. Truck update, we had the new truck dropped off. We're tasked with licensing it, which I didn't realize was such a runaround and probably a rigmarole, which is why they didn't want to license it probably or register it, So got that all figured out. Apparently municipalities have to mail that in. So that's what's taking so long. That's why I'm still renting a truck from Phil, because we're waiting for the DMV to get our license plates back.
Grabbed it out of the mailbox.
I don't. Just so
That's how you're funding that.
Yeah.
Generate revenue, right?
Citation authority, we're working with the clerk of courts and Nikki. I think we got a really good process outlined. We sent out 12 possible citations to get issued. And that's what the clerk of courts had said they could handle. So would work into their schedule. So we're going to try that the first month, and they'll kind of set how we're going to go moving forward, because we have about a little over 100 violations hanging out there. So we want to get those cleaned up and as much as possible. It was kind of lacking in before. Campgrounds, I've been working with Nikki on language. For that is possible ordinance amendment there for our floodplain ordinance. I know we had discussed that in a previous meeting. She is in contact with the DNR bureau chief. I know it's not called bureau chief anymore. It's an old term, but I'm old, so. So, comp planning, we're moving ahead. We're going to set some public meetings or public input meeting sites and dates next meeting here, and finish up the objectives that we'll roll out at those public meetings. Interns in your packet, I included bios from the 2 interns and what they've been up to, kind of just a quick synopsis. In the past, I've had them come in here and give this presentation and talk about it, and what they've been up to, what they've learned, all that stuff. But with the holiday here, they both had off, and then next month, Eli's leaving early. He's from Florida. He's going back. He's going to visit his family before he starts school again. Was finished up his junior year at Beloit. He's going to be a senior next year. So his main duties have been with that culvert inventory, doing a lot of the measurements, setting up all their sites in the data collector. The afternoon when they come back, so they tend to head out early in the morning and come back when it gets really hot. So they don't like to stay out in the heat. Yanri Schmidt is our other one. She's been doing a lot of the scanning for the pump forms and that type of stuff when Eli's setting up the data collector. So they've been pretty efficient in that manner. Yeah. You guys got any questions about them or about what they have some good pictures on some of the culverts they were seeing and the data they collected. That last picture or last slide on Yanri's is the DNR, the Michigan DNR, the Great Lakes culvert inventory, and you can kind of see all those dots on there. They collected quite a few of those. Basically, they've done in that Hillsborough area, they've really concentrated on. They finished up the Baraboo watershed, Pine River watershed. They're going to finish up this week, and they'll be on to this side of the county. Probably focus on Reeds and Teener. It'll be their next one. So all we'll have left is the Bad Axe.
Save the best to our last, right?
That's right. The biggest one to tackle. So
On that culvert thing, have you heard any, like, what would it take for the transportation department to lower that road? This is coming from the Coon Creek watershed, to lower that road in front of the Ed Service down there, the Coon Valley Dairy Supply, so that it gives relief to the bridge so that the water doesn't get as high in Coon Valley. Because been hearing it, and I don't disagree with it, because I've talked to people from like my mom's generation. Say, oh yeah, the water used to roll, go over the road there. And when they
go over the highway, you're saying?
used to go over the highway.
I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah.
I kind of do. But it went over the highway, and when they put that new bridge in, they didn't make the bridge big enough so it won't. So it's like a dam. It holds all the water back into Coon Valley.
Back and then goes around into the town.
Yeah. So I mean, whoever did the geologicals on that, I don't know. We remember that upright, Brett.
It's tough to size things for a 100-year storm event. One, it's very costly. And Phil can speak to that. It gets really expensive to size something for that. So, that's why it probably wasn't sized for 100 year. And I don't know the reason why they
generally don't like to close state through highways.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if they lowered that, knowing that the water's going to go across it, they know in a average flood event, they're going to have to close Highway 14.
They'd be more likely to throw another bridge or some culverts or something.
their best idea would probably be almost do in essence like a
Add a cell,
spillway.
add a cell like they did in Hillsborough would probably, in my opinion, would be the
Okay.
cheapest route. Put another 20 feet on the end of it and go, but.
Yeah.
No, they wanted me to ask, so I'm asking.
Yeah.
That was over the banks, I see. Valley.
Do they have room for another cell? That's the only thing.
Well, they'd have to do some work.
Yeah.
And then that involves Corps engineers and DNR and all the
Mhm.
above.
Mhm.
They'd have to do some dredging and
And you got that walking bridge downstream too.
there's a lot of things in play down there.
Like I said about, the easiest and cheapest route, and that this is just spitballing, is probably, would be cutting like a spillway in essence in there. So, but yeah. Anyways, short answer.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions? All right, Phil, you're up.
Okay, and bridge aid, we've got $396.01 for town of Sterling and Prairie Road, $68.94 for town of Franklin and Ellison Road, $423.38 for town of Coon and Bassin Hollow Bridge, and $1,403.89 for Cornell Lane Bridge.
They're all standard, pretty much.
They're all standard. Total $22.92.22.
Wasn't there something for Cornell last time or the time before?
There will be, until it gets done.
Oh, it's repeated.
Yeah, it's, all of them are bridge aids. We pay 10% basically of any cost. The feds pay 80%.
So it's not a finish, submit it all. It's as they go.
That's
No, they bill you every crack.
Motion to approve bridge aid.
Motion by Paul, second by Charlie to approve bridge age. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
On our RFP for finishing the highway storage shed, so we can heat that and finish the interior. We had 3 proposals. One was from Brickle Brothers, $49,594. One was from Americon Construction, which was $64,693. And one was from 608 Plumbing, here in town, $42,802. And then I had some options for if we didn't do our own heating and some options like that, but that would get the building closed up, and heated. We could do our own heating if need be. We have some spare furnaces to put in there, and we actually have a used oil furnace we were going to put in there for our use. So 608's the lowest of the three. I still think it's high, in my opinion, but I haven't done a deep dive research into it. Point being is if we decide to go with 608 Plumbing, I'd like permission to go and negotiate terms with them. I think if I got some of the stuff, I think there's too much markup in that, in my opinion. Everybody's getting a piece of the pie. If we could buy some of the materials or stuff from the county and then get them to come in and do a finished product. So I'm just going based off the other shed. Different entity, different world. Don't want to get into deep details, but I did it substantially cheaper than $46,000. I mean, I don't know what it would be the county's cost to do that. Because, I've said it all along, highway guys don't work cheap. When you figure benefits and admin and all that stuff, and you add that to the project, that gives them a substantial wage too. But we'd never get it done before fall with summer construction going on.
I was gonna say, you got anybody that could do it, right?
Well, and that if it was the middle of winter,
Right.
yeah, our crew could whip in and do it. But Kayla, do you remember what it cost for what do we have, like 30,000 in the cold storage? John's online. You remember what it cost for cold storage then, John? Wasn't it about 30 grand? 35? He's sleeping.
No, I'm not sleeping. I was on the phone.
Just checking.
Yeah, so for the cold storage, it was around 38,000, I think, all said and done.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, and
Sorry,
I said, I'd like to talk to.
They'll actually ask me a freaking question.
You're still live, man. I smell rubber man when I get home. He's got a bad mouth me, but anyway.
My concern is if you change the terms of what the bid was, does that mean you got to reopen it?
Well, that's what I'm asking, and Cassie may have an official opinion on that. It just seems like a lot to me for what we're getting, but maybe that's the going rate. Maybe if I priced it all out myself, we'd be there because we did the cold storage a couple years ago. So
What was it?
42 and change,
42, and last time he said it was 38.
Yeah.
but it was a bigger area.
Oh, sorry.
Be nice to do local if you can.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna hire it done, they're the ones, 42,802. That's with bad insulation, vapor barrier, blown in attic. We do plywood on the bottom 8 feet, steel all around. I mean, there is an issue. They got to take the doors down because we already have doors in, or take the rails down to put steel on the ceiling and stuff, which is kind of a pain, but I'm good with it either way.
Doesn't hurt to talk to them.
what about, did anybody that foams bid on it all? Or?
We have an alternative. In here somewhere. Yeah, everybody gave an alternative for spray foam. Spray foam is an additional 5,100. And that's the Brickle. I know who spray foamed ours and our other shed, similar size. It'll be about 4,000 for him to do it. Where we hired a guy for the town. Americon didn't do a spray foam.
Aren't there some Amish too that do it? I'm not saying,
I talked to a couple of them that we get steel and stuff from, and they'll do bad. They'd rather not, but I don't know of anybody. They didn't know of anybody offhand. The guy that we use for the town, he's just a private guy that's got his own machine and does it when he's bored. But, he doesn't do it for a living. He just has bought the machine for whatever, and he said does a half dozen jobs a year and paid for the machine. And
But just to eliminate that steel, I seen a chicken house done where they just took plastic, silo plastic, and they nailed it, fastened it to the ceiling, and then they spray foam that whole works in there. Just nice bright white ceiling with nothing to catch any dirt and stuff. But I suppose that takes labor to put that all up there too. By the time they get the plastic up there, they probably got the steel mounted.
Yeah, and for running our conduits and stuff, because we'll do it, it's got power in it, but we haven't wired it, and we'll do all that conduit on the interior steel. And it's something that you're gonna, and because we talked about that, just spray foaming it and walking away, and finishing it over time. But by the time you get it done, it's gonna be 60,000 because you're gonna wait 5 years and do it. And but I say I'm good with 608. If you folks are, I can do a price comparison, but timing's everything. And I know for a fact highway can't get it done by fall. We're just getting ramped up on construction with the weather, providing it holds. So there's no way we'll get it done before the snow flies. Unless I pull construction guys off, and we don't really have spare guys to do that.
Actually, for putting the ceiling and everything in, it doesn't sound like a really.
It's not out of line when you look at the other ones. I think it's a fair price, but I just was kind of surprised. I thought it'd be that 35 bracket myself, but that's only $7,000 difference. But when I was doing it on my guesstimate,
I think timing wise, you're better off to just go with one, because would be concerned about having to rebid it, and then you're going to be pushed way back.
Yeah, if we rebid it again, and their actually. They all said they got windows now. If we kind of take advantage of it, fine. If not, who knows? It might be middle of winter before we get it done. So,
how does that work with bidding? If they, do they have to charge this, or can they come in under their bid?
Yeah, if you're changing the conditions of the bid, though, if he says we're going to provide certain things, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're changing the conditions, so
somebody didn't give everybody a fair crack at it.
Right,
The other guys did it. So,
refurbished materials would have to be put in there as an option.
Yeah. Timing wise, I would say go with 608 or make a motion to accept their bid.
Motion by Charlie to accept 608's bid. Second by Paul. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed?
Works for me.
Motion passes.
Our bills, pretty standard, not much. $120,809.81. But there'll be a rude awakening coming. In the not too distant future, it usually is the way the highway works. We're sitting pretty fat right now, but last half of the year is always a lot harder on us than the front half. Which brings us to the next topic. One truck should be done, probably, maybe this week, if not for sure next week. The other truck's next in line, and then our triaxle's due in November, which we didn't anticipate till getting next year. So that brings us where we potentially are going to be a little short on our capital budget, which we anticipated. We'll worry about that if it does indeed come in November. So we'll have 2 trucks on the road, new trucks this fall. SS is going pretty well on the Peavine Hill. We've had a little delays with the weather. Knock on wood, with our big flushes, nothing's took off. Nothing's flush. So obviously the extra culverts and the stuff they've done has held pretty well for being an open construction site. Our only concern is we're getting towards the top of the hill and back in the 7 and 8 flood. That's where we dumped a lot of overburden, questionable material to get the road open. So when they tear that up and start redoing that we might run into a change order there. We did a change order for the guardrail, which would be $6,600. Just to try to keep that from washing over the years. You put new guardrail in and gravel and so on and so forth, and then you blacktop it, and then that blacktop, the water will run to that guardrail, and there'll be curb there. But the places, if the water jumps the curb, then it washes the backside of the guardrail, and you can't fix it. So we're going to seal that. We've done it on county projects, and it works pretty well. We're starting our wedge-in project today on County H. That's getting rolling. And we got our SMA, State Municipal Agreement, for the CHIP D funding that I received. So County V, we got our $77,000 award that will be for next year. But we got a state municipal agreement on it, so that's good to go for sure. I just wanted to get a heads up where you folks feel. This year, they changed the rules a little bit on bridge solicitation. If you remember, I did 9 bridge applications. We got them all. So we've got 9 bridges we have to pick consultants for. They changed the rules where we got to wait till we get that state municipal agreement, because they don't want us to solicit for a bridge and then have to pull the funding, I'm guessing. But does the committee want to be involved in that again? We have in the past. We line them up. We've got 9, so it'd either be a really long afternoon, mid-morning till afternoon to get all 9 of them in. It usually takes 15 minutes to a half hour apiece. You bring them in, talk to them. They kind of sell their wares. They like doing it. They like coming in and meeting the committee. And then we'd have to award the design for all them bridges. If it's up to you folks how you want to do it. If you want, when we get to SMA, I'm just trying to get the cart ahead of the horse because I'm getting a lot of calls on it. If we're going to do that, because they like to prepare, they know what bridges we applied for. They like to prepare little packets. So when they come, when we do it, they got a little presentation to give to everybody. So
I know I sat in on it one time. I think you did too.
Paul was in on it
It was
before.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes they have new ideas what they'd like to do with different bridges. And then being as how we have 9, I'm guessing they're going to want to try to talk us into bundling some bridges. You get a little efficiency that way, probably save 25, 30 grand a bridge. 4 or 5 of these bridges are town bridges. So they're 100% funding for the town as long as we don't go over. So that's kind of a careful sticking spot. If you go over, then I'm assuming we'd still be on the hook for 50% of that. The other 4 bridges are all county bridges, and them are 80-20 splits. So if you guys are fine with that, when we get to SMA, it's all set up, get some potential meeting dates where everybody can come in, and they say it might take 2 days, depending on how many firms, because with 9 bridges, we're going to be a hot ticket. Other than that, that's all I got.
Anybody got any questions for Phil?
No.
Okay, thank you. Solid waste and recycling.
So first page of the packet. Sorry, it's the packet. So first page is the voucher summary, pretty weak voucher summary for you guys this month. There are some coming down, but they just haven't had the checks cuts yet. So under the recycling department, the biggest one there is for Veolia. That is the disposal cost of the spring clean sweep. We do receive, or we will receive over $15,000 in DAT cap grant funding for that. Again, we do have the fall event scheduled and advertised coming up in September. I do have, I believe, $15,000 budgeted to cover that overage for the fall event. Typically, the fall event is less attended than the spring. The spring is usually the bigger event. But and then under solid waste, the oddity ones are Speedy Clean for $11,210. And then we had Stacy Getter out with his dozer doing a lot of work out in the landfill. We were getting a lot of contaminated soil, both from the highway project as well as Darrell Power. And we don't have a dozer to push that and pile that so we can use it. He also spread some of it around, made a couple. We've got a road along the east berm and a road now on the west berm. If it would ever stop raining, trucks can go up on the top of the landfill and dump instead of dumping kind of in the bowl where they're having to dump now and it's really wet. Which that'll be good. That'll be less fuel wear and tear on the compactor because they're dumping closer to where we need it. So it'll pay off if it ever stops raining. So that's all I have for the vouchers. Any questions on those?
Bringing up compactor, how is that what you bought?
Yep.
How is it working now?
We got the kinks worked out. Okay. I was real unhappy the first week and they were aware. But it turned out to be like a nest, like a mouse nest or a rodent nest in it that got a wire loose because it sat in their yard for over a month or so.
Okay.
Waiting to be delivered. So we got it worked out. It's running great. Guys are happy.
Good.
Yeah, so that's a relief.
Yeah.
I was a little worked up last month, so I apologize on that. But next page, I mean, I guess I can give you those updates. So the Speedy Clean bill, every year we're required to have the leachate lines jetted. Basically clean out all 10 cleanouts plus the transport pipe. I have them do some additional jetting of some of the lines from the landfill to the pump that pumps it up. I have them jet the line up to the loading station. So we're required to do that every year. And then every 5 years, we're required to have all of those cleanouts televised. So they run a camera down through those, and this was year 5. So this is a little higher than what it typically is. But it's because of that televising, which we just had that done the end of June. I also at the end of June had my spring audit from the DNR, and no notices of noncompliance, no violation issues. So that went really well. And then starting to work on budgeting for next year. But second page of your packet is the material volume report. So material taken in for June was 3,190.09 ton, which is 122% of over, or 122% of last year in June. We're at 9% year to date for volume. 75% of that volume was some of that contaminated soil projects we had. They both kind of inundated us in 1 to 2 weeks there. And then so recycling fee items, we are up 12% year to date. Sale of recyclables, we're down 2% in volume, but that's because I have a whole load of cardboard sitting there, a load of plastic sitting in the shop that just needs to be shipped yet. Leachate, we're still down 18% for volume, which I find incredible because when I ran the numbers for June, we hauled over 280,000 gallons of water out of the landfill in the month of June. And Bill is nice enough to have let us borrow his truck. So we've been running 2 trucks the last couple of weeks just to keep the volume in the landfill low. And then we also have a 30,000 gallon above ground storage tank. We have a 15,000 gallon storage tank below that. And then the tank that's immediately out of the landfill is roughly 3,000 gallons. So when everything's full, it's a lot of water. And I think the highway truck hauls about 5,800 gallons and my truck's about 5,000 gallons. So we're moving a lot of water right now, but if it would stop raining, that'd be swell. But I did double check this too because I couldn't believe we were still down for the year, but we are. So last year was, yeah, that's what it was. We got nailed early with all the snow, heavy wet snow, rain, melt.
How long does it take that to work through the
Week or two. It just depends. So like, it depends on what area we're working at that we've got it open. I mean, because that water has to go about 60 to 70 feet through the waste mass before it hits that collection system. So if it rained last night and we had just a huge rainfall, we won't see that volume for a week or two by the time it leaches down, and then it just saturates everything. So they want you to keep the waste, the bottom of the landfill as empty as you can, so it keeps allowing that to perk down. Otherwise, it just backfills. Mm-hmm. So this morning I went down, bottom's empty, wasn't even pumping. So that was good. We were all like, oh, good. Okay. We got the landfill empty. I just got to get the big tank empty. So I got both trucks running. We'll be running this afternoon. Okay. Well, I'll give you the financial report as part of this next agenda item. So I'm going to start the reallocation of the budgeted expenses for the feasibility study. So had Brian Kent go out and obtain estimates for the additional drilling and the installation of the additional monitoring devices. So to the right are the two bids that they received. The one in yellow is the one that he had suggested that we go with. They are cheaper and they are also able to get to our site earlier than the other one. So if you look to the bottom, cost estimate total for that is just the drilling was $111,425. And then SEH gave me a number for their engineering fees of between 75 and 80,000. I'm more of a doomsdayer, so I just went with the worst case of 80,000. So that puts that additional investigation just over 191,000. So this is a little more precise picture for you guys as opposed to what was presented to the county board, the big round numbers. These are the bids for the drilling. And then SEH, their investigation stuff. So with that being said, the next page is the recycling.
I can't see how it's set up.
I think before. And so it's probably gonna be in the Gulf. Sometimes it's.
Go ahead, Cassie, whenever you're ready.
Hey, I just had a quick question. Stacy, last time we talked about this, you had mentioned an additional like $20,000 or something like that for a plan review?
Yes, so that is not something we need to pay for. That came out of like one of the earlier talks with the DNR. They had mentioned the engineering firm sent over to the DNR hey, what do you guys think about us doing this? They were kind of looking for a pre-approval from the DNR for the additional investigation. And the DNR said that if they reviewed that and issued them opinion, that would be issuing them another notice of incompletion review, feasibility study review. So they had mentioned that it would be an additional $20,000 fee to the DNR, which I talked to Brian Kent and asked him about, and he said that would not be the case. They retracted that statement.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So the next page is the recycling department financials. I know it's kind of being out of what we're talking about, but
I was wondering, Cassie, do you have this information or is this something we could put on screen, maybe?
I do not have it, but I also wasn't necessarily planning on working remote today, so.
Yeah, sorry to hear about your mishap.
Yeah, thank you.
you guys want to bear with me, I can join the meeting and share it. Okay. Thank you. Do you want me to share the Yeah, so this is that cost estimate from SEH, and then I added their estimated engineering fees to the bottom of that. Okay, so the recycling department, I'm gonna probably zoom through because the recycling side of things is looking really good. We're at 71% of budget for revenue, 38% for expenditures. So unless you guys have any questions, I do have the bills that you just saw that are in the voucher summary included in that department pending area. So unless you guys have any questions on the recycling side, I think I will move on to the solid waste side, which is more pertinent to the agenda item. Okay, so the next page is the solid waste department financial. So there's an additional column here just to kind of give you guys an idea of where we're at. So your regular financial report is everything through the first percentages. Year to date, we're at 58% of revenue. We're at 54% expenses. Considering all of the repair maintenance overage, the wages and benefits overage, the already paid feasibility and plan of operations expenses. So with that being said, I guess this agenda item, I am asking you guys to reallocate the two line items in yellow. The $157,500 for the county loan payment for a loan that we haven't taken out yet. I'd like to reallocate that entire line item to the engineering line item in green. And then I would like to reallocate $48,000 from the long-term care enclosure line item to the engineering fees to help cover the additional feasibility study work. The long-term care enclosure, I do have an email from Dustin Shalley with the DNR, who is the manager of long-term care enclosure. He is in the process of moving our long-term care enclosure funds from People's State Bank to the Wisconsin Investment Pool. And I have it in an email that he says that we will not need to put, he sent me his calculation, his spreadsheet for the long-term care enclosure. Right now, one fund is overfunded by like $112,000. The other one is underfunded by $118,000. So he asked for approval that when they transfer those funds to their investment pool, we are able to balance those. So take the 112 overage from the one and put it into the other one, which will then put it just over $6,000 short. So that's why I'm only requesting to transfer $48,000, because that will cover that additional $6,000 that we may need to pay in by the end of the year, plus the already allocated $1,600 I asked for last month for the leachate treatment system study.
When are they going to transfer that money? You've been talking about that for...
They ran into, well, it was supposed to be done. It was requested again back in March by Bobby. It didn't get done. I re-followed up with it in May because I'd emailed as soon as everything happened with the county asking about it, and I didn't receive a response. Well, then in May, I finally got in touch with Dustin, and he apologized for not getting it done. With the new rules regarding the long-term care enclosure for municipal landfills, he's part of that group that's working on those rules. So, and now that he started looking into it, we have two investments, and they're very substantial. They're U.S. Treasury notes, I believe, and they do not mature until May of next year. So he is trying to figure out how they can transfer those two investments to their pool without us losing money. So he's trying to do this with the most minimal financial impact to our long-term care enclosure. Because moving it now, him and Colton Conley from People's State Bank, Colton said that if we sell those now, we would lose almost $30,000. So he's working on it. It's just he kind of keeps running into one wall here and there. So that is being done. But I do have it in an email from him stating that Vernon County should not need to pay anything in 2024. But then he sent me the spreadsheet showing we would be $6,000 short. So I thought we would better plan to put at least that in so we are flush for them.
Do you have an estimate of what the interest at the DNR is going to be? What we're going to get paid for interest?
I believe he told me it was over 5%. I kind of was wondering that too, if we just sold it, if we would recoup that $30,000 loss.
Because that's only at what, like?
Those are at 2.75. And then this DNR fund right now, I think the last number he gave me was they're at 5.35%.
So why couldn't they transfer everything but those and then just transfer that when they mature?
He sent me like 3 different options on how to, but he was just trying to minimize our risk and not have our money in all these different places. Having it some with people, some there, because it's more.
Because the amount of money we have in there at 5%, we probably won't have to put any money. We probably won't have to budget any money to long-term care and closure and still keep our, cash basis on that.
Yeah, he sent me, it was 3 different options. One was just sell because it's cleaner and easier to just move all the cash over. Well, with these 2 investments not matured yet, it muddies it. So we could sell them, take the loss, move everything. That would be easiest for him. Otherwise, they're trying to see if they could transfer those 2 assets to the DNR pool as part of our transfer. And then there's no loss. You would just wait till they mature and then they could reinvest them. Or the third option was, as you said, like leave that with People's State Bank till it matures. And with the idea that once it matures, then everything will get then transferred over. So he had sent me those three options. I got them maybe a week ago now, if we're going to be honest.
Doesn't that make the most sense though? I mean, to transfer everything but those?
If we can, even if we lose 30,000, if we make 50,000 by moving it by twice.
But you're not, because you're only looking at the interest on that money in those treasury bonds.
Yeah.
So that doesn't work.
Well, my thought was I was hoping they could transfer those 2 investments to the DNR thing. So then all of our money's together instead of having it separate. But it sounds like that's a difficult thing to transition over between him and Colton. Like they're the ones working on trying to do this. So I guess that would be the way I would like. So everything's together instead of having to keep track of People's State Bank and then having a bunch of money over here, having it all together.
But to lose 30,000 just for 1 year of keeping track doesn't.
Well, no, they're talking about taking these 2 notes and transferring them from like People's State Bank to the DNR, like just taking that investment and transferring it over instead of selling it off and then transferring the cash.
Right. But you said that was hard to do.
Yeah, he said it's not impossible, but he's struggling. It's not as clean and easy as he'd like it to be, where it's just transferring cash.
But for 30,000, I wouldn't just say sell it. That doesn't.
Well, you just got to do the math.
I can't believe it's that difficult. I mean, what the lag time is, it just seems kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, he did spell out all 3 options, and the selling it and just transferring all the cash over was like option 1, and that would be the easiest. I just wasn't sure if we would recoup that, and I'm not a financial advisor by any, like I am.
Well, but all the money that you're transferring gets the 5%. So if you're doing the math correctly, all you can counter is what part of that is the treasury bonds, which is going to be, you're never going to recoup that going from 2.75 to 5 in that time frame. That's not going to math out. Not for 30,000.
Well, these investments the one is $725,000 and the other one is over 800,000. So they're pretty substantial.
Right, but all I'm talking about is the treasury bond part of it.
Yeah, those are the 2. Those are the values of the 2 notes that.
You got $150,000. $150 million.
$1.5 million.
$1.5 million, yeah.
Oh, well, then maybe the math would work, but I guess you have to see the numbers before that becomes.
I mean, it's just a math problem. Is what it is. If you lose 30, but you gain 50, you're ahead 20. So,
right.
I mean,
yeah, and I wanted to reach out. Dustin's kind of the main guy, the only guy for this stuff. So getting in contact with him kind of can be a lengthy process. So I want to reach out with him and get his opinion on like if we would recoup that loss, and then fly it by Cassie and see like her thoughts as kind of the coordinator, and then
Right.
kind of act.
My concern was just that we're not using the other money and saying that 5% is going to be there anyway.
Right.
If we keep the treasury bond absolutely separate,
You can't,
that's the math we need.
you can't
to do,
include
not
the
math.
increase on that, right?
No.
So I guess, so the last column here where the heavier line divides, these are estimates, as to where I think we're gonna end the year. So, the solid waste tipping fees, that was calculated out based on what we've taken in this year for garbage, and then mathed out to get to this revenue number. Repair and maintenance, I left an additional $20,000 in there because of the way the year's gone so far. I thought I'd better be safe than sorry. Wages, utilities, administrative expenses, those I just doubled. Halfway through the year, just doubled those because those are all pretty standard. The licensing fees, I calculated what would be left off the tonnage, and that's how I got to that number. Fuel, I doubled our fuel expense. When I budgeted last year, I guess I was really planning for huge fuel savings that just haven't occurred yet. And that's not going to get any better with the current water hauling. The fuel to truck that water is also included in this. So the landfill, I do have a couple additional things I'd like to get done this year, or may need to get done. So I did leave an additional $15,000 or added an additional $15,000 to that. But the bigger regular bills, the jetting, the sampling, that stuff is all in there. Leachate, yes, I doubled that as well. The year's going for that. Calculate out the townhouse fee. The 7,000 in long-term care and closure, that was kind of the difference between those two accounts. I left it there. Like I said, it was just over 6,000, and I like to put an even amount into long-term care when we do that. Insurances, that was either workers' comp or I think it's the workers' comp insurance estimate. And then just our miscellaneous expenses, I just doubled that for the rest of the year. So we would still be sitting above budget.
What is this pending solid waste tipping fees, the 123?
So that is our accounts receivable balance for everything I sent out in June.
So what we're looking for is a motion to, does this have to go to finance at all then?
I'm not sure. Cassie said I needed to bring it to infrastructure, so I guess she would be.
We had the discussion that, interdepartmental stuff. We had the discussion at general government is how much can we do at committee level and how much needs to go to finance and the county board.
So this is money that's already budgeted, been approved for the 2024 budget. We're just moving it from one expense to the other expense item, and it's within the same, even the same department. Like my budget's two departments, the recycling and solid waste, so it's just moving from one to the other.
I get.
Lauren, this isn't one that we believe we need to take to finance committee. Whereas the one from general government, Jerry and I reviewing our current policy, we do believe that one does need to go to finance in the full board, but that budget amendment policy, the way it sits right now, is something that we'd like to review with the finance committee, because I do believe there are some changes that need to be made there so that our processes are a bit more timely.
Okay, I was just gonna say maybe they'll have some clarification on that after Cassie and Jerry discuss what we had at the general government meeting. So I guess what we're looking for is a motion to reallocate county loan payment and long-term care and closure, reallocate that to engineering. Is that,
Mhm.
But that's not approving the extra 191,000 right now. It's just moving that. Is that what you're saying?
Would be to approve it though. That's what it'll be for. So back to your budget on your numbers. So your year-to-date is 461. And you said for your estimated total for the year, you just doubled it?
Mhm.
But for the construct, like for the dirt and all the stuff you're getting from the county, the old county shop project, that's about done, isn't it? For anything coming in?
Mhm.
So where is that, all that extra coming from?
Well, so that volume comes in at a significantly lower tonnage fee than the regular garbage does.
It doesn't have the same monetary impact.
Mhm.
Right, but I'm just saying, but volume wise, you still have a huge increase because of that.
Yeah, but volume, but not revenue. I think those two projects were about 30,000 together. Was the revenue we received off that. And we still have, so when you're, the waste stream, so January, February, March are very slow. None of the construction stuff's taking place. People aren't demoing stuff. It's very slow. It starts to pick up in April and in May, but with the weather we've had, that's not happening either. So like June, July, August, September are your heavy construction demo months. That's when we start seeing a lot of those guys come back in. And then it starts to taper off September, October, November, and December. So like usually like around back to school time is when we start seeing a slide in the volume.
I'm just concerned they're asking for 191 and are they done? I mean, he couldn't even really answer
And
that.
you don't know what they're going to find until
Right.
they start investigating. That's
Right.
what the investigation does.
And I'm playing the devil's advocate here, but I mean, it's some discussion we need to have. What if, I know this been approved, go ahead with the project, but what if we went ahead with this alternate daily cover system, which they said could give us, 5 years extra?
That's what they claim, yes.
Yeah.
But
What?
2 or 3 would be.
I wouldn't put all my stock in the fact that we're going to gain an extra 4 to 5 years of airspace with that cover system.
I'm just really concerned about the financial.
So what's the selling point then? Because now before that was the big deal, was to save all this, and now you're saying it isn't.
It is, but I don't want to put all the eggs in that basket that we're going to have all this extra time that we can just continue to take our time on this process. This is still a very long process. It'll buy us more time. I have no doubt in that. And it's going to save a lot of staff timing, and it's going to help with relations with the neighbors, litter, odor. It's helping for a whole bunch of operational purposes. And then, yes, it does have the also ability to save us airspace. I don't know that it's going to save the amount of airspace they're claiming, though. They're talking like 5 to 6 years of.
But I'm saying conservatively, then you could still say 2.5 to 3.
Yes.
Which is, to Martha's point, then some of this could slow down a little bit. I mean, not put the brakes on it, but I mean, still, let's get the study done and approved before we start spending other money into something else.
Well, so that the plan of operations, I have the approval to move forward with that. I have a loan sitting out there for that. We've started some of that, but that is the new plan, is to finish the additional investigation for the feasibility study before continuing on with the plan of operations work.
Right. I just think it's getting ahead of it. I mean, because we don't know what this is going to say. So why start a plan of operation if it could change depending on what the results of that are?
Well, we already have the plan of operations approved. Like it's already been.
I understand that.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. That is the plan.
Common sense wise, wouldn't we be better off to slow down until we get an answer on this to see? Because won't some things have to change in the plan depending on what they find?
Yes, so the plan now is to do the additional feasibility study investigation, provide that to the DNR, get through this before they continue any more work on the plan of operation.
This is.
Okay.
Because,
This is
yes, we are
necessary.
slowing down on that back end.
Okay, well, that's
Yeah.
what I'm asking, because before it was push, 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 we're gonna do them both at the same time.
That was what was presented to me too, that you need to move because our time frame for the landfill filling is not going to, at that time, was not going to make by the time we'll ever get this constructed. So the engineer, the DNR,
Well,
and we've been talking about this since 2017, which this really should have been started then, for time frame, you know.
should, it
So
doesn't
we're,
matter, where's
Yep.
we're
Yeah,
at.
but we're, you know, we're, I'm saying that to demonstrate that we're really behind how this usually goes.
Well, but that still doesn't mean you get ahead on another area until you know what the answer is. This is the worst case scenario, is now we need to do all this extra stuff, which is gonna take longer, them to study it. We can't move forward until we get the results.
Yeah, we can't. That's just.
Right. That's what I'm just saying, is as long as this plan of operation is on hold until we, because who knows if this is the end?
I know, that's.
I mean,
the
that's,
issue I have.
Right. Regardless if it was approved with the knowledge that we weren't going to have these issues.
Right.
Well, that was the general thought, was we weren't going to have anything major to slow the process down, and now we do.
When that was presented to the county board, it was Brian, Kent, Melanie have all said that they have never worked on a landfill project that has not received a notice of incompletion. There's always a notice of incompletion on the
And
feasibility.
maybe it's my fault, but my understanding was it wasn't going to be
But
something.
maybe
major.
not to this extent of
Well, and
additional
that's-
wells
That's
and
what I'm trying
that.
to get to is,
If we didn't know that these wells, according to our engineers, Melanie, they should not be necessary, but there's been enough squawking at the DNR that they
Right.
have, thrown a bone to put these
Right.
wells in.
but that's the point. What was presented to us wasn't to this extent.
No, not
I mean,
this
Unless my
$200,000.
interpretation was totally wrong, which I don't think it is.
No, I agree. And then, we're talking about this daily cover, which is a great thing to help satisfy the town host agreement. Where would that money come from then if we're gonna?
Well, I mean, not to jump ahead in the agenda, but I had talked so the daily cover annual cost, we're looking at roughly $22,000. No,
I thought that one guy presented what was it?
Well, it was how big the tanks were for the spreader. It was a lot
yeah,
of money.
So the numbers, when I originally spoke with James Manchester from LSC, I gave him what we had open that day. I have the guys step it off and give him a measurement of what we have open. Right now, because of the elevation where we were at, we have a lot of open area on the top of the landfill. Essentially, the whole top is open because it's getting smaller as you go up. We have been working on minimizing that area that's open, so getting it covered. And so we've been working on that since I started talking to James about this in January. So we've done a lot to minimize that open area. That's just part of operations, and per DNR, when he was there last fall, he's like, you gotta shrink this up. So I went into his spreadsheet that he sent me and adjusted the open area. I moved it down to 10,000 square feet, which the only papers I gave you guys today are the equipment costs and then the material costs, because the material costs, this is what that spreadsheet he sent me calculated out that it would cost us about $26,800 per year to buy the posi shell. Okay. So with that being said, this is what they recommend for cover. I've talked to Outagamie County who uses this, Adams County who uses this. They don't use anywhere close to what they were pitched. We can add latex paint to this stuff to help the mix go farther, which would reduce the volume of mix we need. So this would be at their spec of how much needs to be mixed to put on. So that would be about $26,800 a year at their number. I'm confident we can reduce that, but I gave you the biggest number that they gave me. And then, so right now we're trucking sand. I have to hire somebody to come and dig the sand, haul the sand up to a pile or haul it up to the landfill. So this stuff would alleviate a lot of that expense. So operationally, it would be about break even annually. The cost for the machine, me and Phil talked yesterday, and we're going to look into maybe putting in a whole chunk request for this because this is a hydroseeder, right? Land and Water could potentially use it, Highway could use it, but they don't need it year round. So we could maybe share it and then have a 3-departmental request for whole chunk funding for the machine, to pay for the machine.
How does that work if you have to spread that every day?
We would just use sand because we're still going to have some sand on site. The DNR is not going to just have this be a 100% your daily cover. They are still going to want sand, but it's going to tremendously reduce the volume of sand we're going to need. So on the days that Bill needs it, we'll cover with sand.
But then that's eating into your savings.
The majority of the savings of this is the airspace savings.
And this was a big ticket item for the townhouse.
Right. And I'm going to be honest, I love the idea that it's a shell. You spray it on, it keeps it down. Because even putting sand on there, it doesn't spread nicely. You have to put so much sand on there to get it covered the way the DNR wants. It's a huge waste of sand. And now we're filling our landfill with virgin sand material. It just seems kind of nonsense. Also, I've watched it. I've watched this stuff be sprayed on a landfill when was I there? November, to Outagamie County, and it stuck the litter. It was wind-blown bags at me, and it essentially glued it down. I was pretty impressed. I didn't think it worked that well, and it does.
So does the cedar gunk up at all when you text paint to it?
No, Outagamie, because I asked when I was there, they said they had no issues with it. And there are sometimes, I can't remember the mix that they used. I want to say it was 60% posi shell, 40% latex.
So is there a heater in this?
No, it would have to be stored in our building, which I have an area already for it to be parked inside with with clean water access because the DNR doesn't want us using leachate. So there goes that enthusiasm for that part of the savings. But we can park it in our recycling part of the shop there, right on the big garage door behind my office there.
But the nozzles are big enough that you're not going to have freezing issue on cold days?
Yes. And that is why we're going to have sand on site because the DNR is not convinced of that. They're not convinced of that. So they want you to have sand so you can for sure got that cover, and then you can use this as a additional daily cover source. I talked to Adams County. They're going to, if we decide to move forward with this, they'll send me their plan modification because then I have to submit a plan modification on how we're going to use it to the DNR. That's a $1,600 to $2,000 fee for them to review that plan.
So if this puts a shell over everything, is there a water runoff issue?
No, because you're going to use it on the interior of the landfill. They have other products that you can use to shell on the outside of the landfill, and then the water would run out, but it's not coming in contact with garbage then.
But I think we got to figure out this.
Yeah, we're kind of into the next.
I know, but I kind of jumped ahead, but that was my
point. But if
point.
there's a shell and the water just sits on top then?
No, so you spray this stuff on, it creates a shell. You run over it with a compactor and that's going to bust up the shell. Like it's not a permanent plastic shelling barrier. That's the beauty of it. So you'd run the compactor over it, bust it up, and then you would place the garbage. And even at some point it does disintegrate. Like I think they told me 3 to 5 days this would last. And then they have more potent stuff that would last longer for what is called like the intermediate covering, like the outside berms and stuff, because you'd want to cover that and leave that last longer, as opposed to your active working area.
So there's a lot of different options that we may or may not need to explore in the future as far as the application of this machine.
Yeah, that's why I didn't bring a proposal for you guys to approve to say go ahead, because we talked yesterday about the machine and that maybe it could be a 3-department machine, you know, we could share. And I looked into outfitting our loaders, trading them in for one loader with quick attach, so we could then just use the loader to spray the stuff, and to trade them in and get a different loader with all of that was a lot more money than I thought I would ever be allowed to spend. So I guess the material, I'm still sold on the material. It's just, again, how we're going to apply it, and if it would be better to buy maybe a bigger machine for everyone to use as opposed to just my little one that's going to fit my loader bucket trying to save money. You know what I mean?
So what are you gonna use to pull it? What's the plan to pull it?
Our big loader has the blade. I don't even know what kind of, it's got the hook up to like back up the trailer and put a pin in to drag it around the land.
So that would work.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting back to the agenda item of reallocating the funds. Any more discussion on that? This is the next step that needs to be completed to continue.
Yes.
You understand we need to do this. It does. I've mentioned this too. It does seem like dangling the carrot. We've done everything they ask, and then it's, well, let's see if they'll go along with this. I know there's a process. Like Charlie said, we followed it up to that point. We trust an engineering company up to that point. Yes, there's going to be some things that show up. It's a sizable expense. It's not like it's you know, need another 40,000 for some engineering details. This is a big one. There is a spot for this money to come from. That all makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. You say having the discussion. So we do this. Let's say we do this. Then it comes back. Well, you know, this was good and it took us here. So now next. So what do we do then?
I mean, you know, you're June. I know you've got pending accounts receivable, but you're showing a loss of 189,000 for June alone.
Well, the reason that is if you look under equipment, building, and road, the purchase of the compactor is included there, which that should have come out of treasurer's cash and then be put in as an asset. That journal entry has not been done yet. So now it's a revenue, and it's taking away revenue as an expense item on this report. That's why, or in the pending, I have the minus 148.5 because that shouldn't be on the revenue expense report.
But it'd still be a loss of about 50,000, even with that taken out. I just am really concerned.
But you also have $123,000 of revenue that was generated in June that just hasn't been deposited yet. This is all stuff that was billed out for the month of June. So the year to date is showing a positive 31,000.
But when this county loan payment would come due.
But we don't have a loan.
I know we don't have it this year, but it's going to be, say, next year, the year after, when this all is in place. What's the plan of paying for that if our tonnage is down so much?
Our tonnage is already down. It's already down. It's been budgeted for. This $157,000 is a loan payment for a loan that we haven't received the loan for.
I get that.
So we shouldn't need to pay that this year. If we need to pay it next year, it'll be rebudgeted under this. This is another one of these one-off expenses like KJ talked about that we're showing a loss for the previous 3 years. Well, that's because all of the engineering fees and expenses regarding the landfill expansion were all paid as an expense on that year's revenue. You know, so this again, I get the concern too, because I'm just as concerned that, okay, well, now we put this much in. Well, when we get that done, how much more is it going to take? But those are not annual operating expenses. They are all related to the expansion of the landfill, which could potentially 15 years worth of airspace at our current tipping rate is worth over $20 million of potential revenue generation. And that's just at what this year's tipping rate is. And we're going to have to increase tipping rates. Every landfill around us is, with the exception of La Crosse County. Monroe County's going up, Adams is going up. Like, so while budgeting, that's something I will be looking into. But like, this is not a continuing every year extra $200,000. This is being done because of the expansion effort.
So far, treasurer's cash has been able to cover.
The treasurer's paid for that compactor. And then I've got a balance of $153,000 in there as of the end of June.
So after everything is paid and losses are covered by that, there's still $153,000 in there.
In the balance sheet, a balance sheet is a point in time today.
Mhm.
You know, so like I've come across this in years past where like December, oh my God, my treasurer's cash is awesome. And then by February, all the checks from December had come through. But I have like a vouchers payable of $56,000 right now. So take that off. That's checks that are sitting out there waiting to be cashed. That would be around $100,000 in treasurer's cash. Yeah, just.
Which is in there. Or how much will be in there that isn't already spoken for.
Mhm.
This 157,000 will be budgeted again next year.
Right.
For the loan payment,
For the
if and when we take it out.
Yeah.
And that might not be next year,
and I think that was.
The process could slow down. It might be 2 years before we need that money.
Well, especially if they keep.
Forever.
Well, but that's the problem is because it's going to take how long for them to do the work, then how long for the DNR to reply. As long as the plan of operation is on hold, I guess I'm a little more comfortable with.
Yeah, because a lot of the plan of operation is the operating Bible of the landfill. So they would need this information before they develop like the environmental monitoring plan and stuff, because these are all now additional wells that would
Right.
have to be included in all of that.
Right. Well, that was my.
Yeah.
There's no use to spend all this money and then have this study come in, and now we got to change everything, and then it's going to cost us another 15,000 to add that in.
Yeah, there's certain parts of the plan of operation that can be done, and I think they've gotten to that point, because that's, I mean, I've already got almost $50,000 in engineering fees this year, and that was some of that was the plan of operation stuff that they could do, but they're not gonna do the stuff that they gotta wait on this for. So now we're kind of at a standstill on that until we get this.
Hopefully.
Isn't some of this, they move some wells around or something that would have been needed anyway?
Yeah, so
Compared to where they were requesting to be, we would have needed these anyway. So it's just like this, it's not all extra expense. It's just extra expense right now.
They were hoping to put some of, because there is a well cluster on the northeast corner that will have to be abandoned to construct the expansion. And so these wells that they're proposing would have replaced those, but they were hoping to put that off until they developed the plan of operation and then put those wells in at that time. But the DNR wants them in now so we can get the monitoring data from them. They're just moving the wells that are within the footprint of the expansion to other places to obtain more data.
So wouldn't that have been kind of considered in the cost if they were planning on that eventually down the road?
In the plan of operations costs?
Yeah, I mean, so they can eat this 200,000.
Well, and part of this, they drilled a couple wells on the east side outside that footprint, and they drilled them, got to the water, dry. So there's it tells you information, but doesn't give you water movement data. And so that's part of it too, that a couple of the wells to the east or the southeast corner were dry during the 6-month monitoring period. Well, last year we had a significant drought all summer, and that's when they were monitoring these. So they're planning to resend the crew out to monitor all of those wells that have been drilled and then re-drill new ones to hopefully obtain enough data for the DNR.
So with what Martha said, though, if some of this is plan of operation, but we're doing it now, will that change the cost of the plan of operation then? I mean, because if some
It
of that
definitely
work,
should.
if that work was built into that, but we're doing it before, shouldn't that reduce the cost of the plan of operation? Otherwise, what are we paying for?
Right.
That was kind of my understanding. What they were talking about is it's money that we are spending now that we're not going to have to spend later, but.
Well, but hopefully that's not the bid and they're going to want the same anyway. That's the concern.
That might be a discussion point to them.
Yeah. I guess I can't answer that. I know that they were hoping to not have to drill them until the plan of operations if they had to. I think they were kind of thinking maybe they wouldn't have to, but then with those 2 wells dry.
But then that cost should be reduced by what that's going to cost us now.
Definitely.
I mean, logically.
That's why I said they can eat it.
Well, we haven't paid for that.
No.
So.
I guess the other question is, what's the other option other than reallocating it?
Right. But there's enough money in treasurer's cash to help cover emergency stuff short term. I mean, that was my bigger concern, because if stuff keeps coming out of that, sooner or later, you're not going to have that to fall back on. And that's should be the concern.
And I know you're concerned. You know,
who are you guys going to come to when it happens? It's going to be me.
Exactly,
so,
right.
I'm just as concerned as you are.
That's, I don't mean to be the, the doomsdayer here, but I'm just concerned. And water quality, with all this PFAS stuff going around, you can bet there's going to be a lot more coverage on that down the road.
Which I'm really thankful you guys allowed me to move forward with that on-site wastewater treatment system, just so we are at least have an idea in case that me and Cassie kind of talked about it yesterday. I've talked a lot with Brian Kent about it too, about that, the concern of PFAS, but wastewater treatment plants are going to be required to have something to treat that. It'll go to there first, because that's where all of our wastewater goes for your houses, the landfill, like it all ends up going there. So a lot of these places don't need this on-site treatment system because they all have direct feeds. La Crosse County, Allegheny County, Dane County have a direct feed right to the wastewater treatment system for their municipalities. So it'll hit them first. And the idea that they may cut us off, I don't know that they can, because again, this stuff has to go somewhere, right? The water has to go somewhere. You can't just let it fill up and go over. So it'll hit the wastewater treatment facilities first, but it may cost us an exorbitant amount of money to then get rid of our leaching. That's why I'm glad we're looking into maybe being a little more self-sufficient by having our treatment. Then we can kind of control costs as well with that in the future.
But that's where it'd been nice to get a lease rate on that, which they dodged in a hurry.
Yeah, I'm curious. They were there within a week and got that sample, that 275 gallon sample. And so that's been taken. I'm curious to see what numbers they come back, because when I first met with them, $3 to $5 million is a pretty big old jump. So this will give us a better idea of what filters, how big a system we'll need, and that kind of stuff. So I'm glad you guys allowed me to move forward with that. I think that is proactive.
What if you came back to them and said, okay, this was part of the operation costs originally? Would they just say?
We still have to drill. We still have to pay the drilling company, but they were going to drill the wells.
They were going to drill the wells anyway, correct? In the plan of ops?
I don't know that they were. I think they were hoping that they didn't have to. And if they were asked to to do them, then they would do it during the plan of ops instead of before it with the feasibility study
You
investigation.
know that one with.
A lot of this is because of the 2 dry wells.
So is drilling these extra, whatever we're talking about, actually in the plan of operation
No.
or not?
No, they haven't developed the plan of operation yet. They were just hoping to put it off until later.
But the bid was for however many 100,000. So in that plan, was drilling part of it or not?
I don't,
I would
I
certainly
guess I
think
would
so.
have an SLA for that.
Well, but I mean, then we're gonna know if that was already planned or not. Because if it isn't, then that's a whole different,
I know drilling
whole
through
different
that,
expense.
drilling through that perch.
Mhm.
I know that was not included.
Okay. Well, you can look at that later. I just want to make sure we're not paying for something twice.
And I'll have that conversation with Brian Kent and just say, hey, you know, we kind of talking to, you guys had mentioned that this was, but I don't believe that it was. I think that was just our engineering assistance agreement because they have had us set up accounts and all of the subcontractors bill us directly trying to save us money. So like the testing lab, I paid them directly. The drilling companies, I've paid them all directly. So that's why like this quote I'm giving you is for the drilling separate of their engineering fees is because he's having me bill
But if that's the case, it's a little concerning if their plan of operation doesn't include things that you're going to subcontract. Otherwise, that could double the cost in a hurry.
Well, like with the plan of or the feasibility study, he gave us the scope of work and what they will do. And then he included like, this is what Braun Intertech is going to be charging for the drilling. So like he gave me both numbers. It just was separated out because he thought it would save us some money as opposed to paying them to pay those guys. And then we pay their administrative fees and stuff.
So the numbers we were given, does it include all the work that the others were going to do or just?
It did, yes, but it was just broken out. Yeah, when we talked about the feasibility study, I was like, this is what they're looking at, but that did include the engineering fees and the drilling stuff and all the environmental geotechnical investigation. And they had kind of done additional investigation originally because they were planning for this. So we've done a little more investigation already. And now they want, like Melanie had spoke that they want a rotosonic drilling done this round and they didn't do that last. So it's
More hoops to jump through, but it'd be nice if we're getting towards the end of that.
So if we approve this today, does that, you said it had to go to board or it doesn't have, to go? It's just reallocating? Okay. But in essence, it's approving the 200,000.
Yeah, the 100
To be spent.
Yeah. I guess I'm okay with it as long as we're not, see, the long-term care enclosure with what you presented last time, I have kind of an issue with. As an enterprise fund, I don't think that should fall back on the county
It can't, I don't think.
to do that. So you're still going to have to keep the balance. If the interest is enough to keep it ahead, that's wonderful. But I don't think as an enterprise that it can fall back on the county and then not make those payments. I don't think that makes sense.
Well, I guess when I presented at the board, this was my thought process is that we don't have to pay into it this year. I've got this money budgeted for that.
Right.
To try to pay for
But
this.
the way you presented it was you could fall back on the assets of the county and you wouldn't have to pay because the county has the assets to do the closure at the end. But as an enterprise, I don't think that should be.
I would agree with you. I mean, it's an option that we shouldn't take.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't fall back on the county.
Because it falls on the county, you'd have to raise tax levy and you can't.
Well, you shouldn't.
that with an
Well, you
enterprise
can,
fund.
but you shouldn't be doing it then.
Can you even do it with an enterprise fund? I don't.
Well, I mean, like Adams County,
Well,
they're
I
on
don't-
tax roll, their solid waste
They-
recycling is on their tax roll.
The nursing home's an enterprise fund and
I just want to make sure that it's transparent and we're not back to like we were with Vernon Manor where they were pulling general fund every year and nobody knew what was happening.
Right.
That's just my 2 cents. I don't think that that track as an enterprise makes sense to me.
I would agree with that. Even though it is an option that we could use, I wouldn't.
You can't rely on it.
I wouldn't want to go that way.
Well, it shouldn't, that's not the intent of an enterprise fund.
Because depending upon, and like CJ says, the rules aren't hard and fast yet, but theoretically, if the rules come through real lax, the county board could make the decision to take that money that's already in that closure and sign a letter, and then we could take the money that we've already set aside and spend it on other things. And
that's not a good idea.
That's not a good idea either.
Keep your fingers off.
Yeah. Keep putting it in there. And if interest rates go down and we got to keep putting in, what did we usually allocate for that? Like 90,000 a year. We've been putting it in for years.
Yeah.
90,000.
Sure. I think I budgeted 80 and we ended up losing money on it. And it was 155,000 we put in.
But if you can lock in, get into that fund at 5+, it should almost fund itself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whoever put money in at 0% or whatever, that wasn't good business sense.
Well, and it's the economy too. A lot of that is, I wasn't real happy when we went and met with People's State Bank and where we were at. I was not very happy because I guess I kind of entrusted them to be.
So why would you lock in anything at 0? I mean, that makes no sense. I mean, if you're locking in on 1 to 1%, you must leave in savings. At least you have options when things change then.
Well, then like governmental long-term care and closure funding, you can only put it in certain investments too. Like they only allow you to use certain investments. That's why like this one is in a US Treasury note because they restrict what you can't just like put in the stock market and hope for this. Like it just.
But that hurts you when investing is bad. That's what I'm saying.
It sure did.
I mean, but that should never happen again. Thankfully.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah. Would it think it hurt to talk to Brian Kent and say, has this been part of the plan before? Here too.
Well, that's just going to fall under the whatever the DNR response is. I don't know. Because they're going to say they don't know what it is until they tell us what they.
I know originally there was no plan on drilling through the perched water table. There was no plan for that. That was brought about by.
I know they say they drill and then they close it so it doesn't leak through.
Yeah. Poke a hole in a water balloon.
Well, but it sounds good, but I don't. Well, as long as the budget projections are there, I guess I have some concerns that it's going to stay that you can just say double it, but there's still some built in there. At this point, what else are we going to do? Well, I guess I'll make a motion to reallocate the budgeted expenses for the county loan payments for the long-term care and closure into the engineering fees as requested.
Motion by Charlie.
I'll second.
Second by Sandy to reallocate. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Sorry to interrupt. You guys want to include dollar amounts? Because I only requested to move 48,000 from the long-term care and closure.
Okay.
Just.
That was as requested, so yeah.
Okay. And then we already talked about the daily cover. I guess I don't have anything actionable today. I'd like to research the idea of us getting a piece of machinery that we can, maybe multi-departments can use.
Does anybody have any department got a hydro seeder right now, Phil, do you know?
Yeah, we got one. That's some land and water, but it's not the type that will mix stuff. And we don't like it because we can't use the kind of mulch we want to use. We got to use that. It's just a water circulator. And half the time the mulch sits in the bottom of the hydro seeder.
Would that be something you'd want to get rid of and trade in or sell out or?
Potentially, technically Land and Water owns it.
Okay.
And we kind of use it, but we do a lot of the maintenance on it.
Then
You know.
one.
What do you don't? There's a new one sitting in its spot. But,
Yeah,
How many days a year does Land and Water use it?
that I don't really know. I mean, they do bigger projects where they'll take it for a week and we don't see it. You know, we do projects like when we're cutting ditches and stuff, we'll hydroseed it for 3 hours today.
Right.
And we won't use it again for 2 weeks, or we might hydroseed for 2 weeks if we have a big project. But now the DNR wants things hydroseeded, you know, seeded down in a timely fashion. So,
So this will be good for you.
I mean, we're a fan of looking into it. If we can get the right unit and we can do a shared deal, I'm all about that.
I mean,
Save all of us some money.
it is on wheels so that, you know, theoretically, if it's not, you know, over to Hillsborough, if it's close, it could be pulled back every.
And that's the, you know, when Stacy and I were talking yesterday, getting one with the right kind of tires on the actual landfill itself, I'm not too worried about issues. You know, we can hitch a culvert like anybody else and blow a tire. I mean, that happens. It's more the transition period of the nails, you know, from point A to point B. After you get on the landfill, you can run over a lot of nails in a softer, that don't hurt nothing. You get a 10, 12 ply tire. But we need to pull it down the road because we might hydroseed a spot in Hillsborough today and one in Genoa this afternoon.
Those aren't solid tires?
The ones on in the packet are.
Okay.
Those are solid rubber tires because that's all of our equipment that's in the landfill has those. But that's what we were kind of talking about, trying to get something that we can figure out a way that they can use it and then I can use it.
We've got solid rubber tires on our skid steer. I can guarantee that whatever you put in there would be mixed up by the time you got out. They are the terriblest riding.
Well, I was wondering about putting that on the road if you're going any distance. If it bounces that hard, that'd be pretty tough on the machine.
That wouldn't be feasible. I mean, it'd bust everything out.
Right.
Well, and he said that I talked to James this morning, they do have a bigger machine too. He sent me the quote for, but that they can truck mount that.
Yeah, and that's what the highway was looking at. If we ever had a lot of money we didn't know what to do with, was taking one of our mid-level trucks and, you know, taking a box of stuff off and mounting a hydroseeder unit right on it. So then you're zip and pop, but Land and Water goes off-road quite a bit. And so do we sometimes. Or then you talk about outfitting it with different tires and stuff so you're not stuck all the time.
Well, they also said they could mount it like a roll-off.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen them. You back into them, multi-purpose deals where you back into it, plug in some hydraulic lines and down the road you go.
The other thing, I was wondering is there some place that you could rent one like that to use it for a month and just go buy a pallet of this stuff just to see how it works?
I don't know that they rent one. We can set up a lease agreement. I know that, but I don't know that because the closest place that uses it is Adams County. I don't know that if they would lease that
Renting a hydro
or
seeder.
rent it out.
Renting a hydro seeder.
Oh, just renting any sort of.
I mean, like it's tires. We got a 500 gallon pickup.
Yeah, something like that. You know, it'd be,
And it could be transferred on and off.
you know, just maybe something you want to look into to see if but you'd be not comparing apples to apples either. So, well, this was no fun when it was a 500 gallon, when you got a 300-foot hose you're walking out there as compared to, you know, so, yeah, bad idea. Scratch that.
Well, because I like it because I was like, oh, well, that was why I went to Outagamie County because I thought, yeah, this stuff sounds way too good to be true. Like I pick litter. It's not fun. So any way to prevent that is I'm all for it. And I wasn't thinking it would work that well, but it didn't.
I just don't know how it's going to work to try to share a machine that's built to operate on a landfill, but on the road.
I think it'll take some brain power.
We'd have to solve the tire complexity.
Look, if you trailered it to where you use it on regular tires, then you could have really good, the dump or the landfill tires on it.
Yeah, that would work.
Well, I would take
That's what it takes to get it up on, though, but.
a good backer.
We won't talk about that. I don't like that road. Trailer and stuff is a pain in the you know what.
Okay.
Okay. Well, speaking of the letter, what about town host agreement? What we got going on there?
I just so that would be the last few pages. Well, daily cover stuff. And then, so the town host agreement request, I put together some numbers on the cost of some of the requests. So the prairie planting, the last page is a map that I had sent over to Land and Water. I've been in discussions about the prairie planting. That might be where we can do that is very restricted. This map here on this lower pink section, all of these blue dots are monitoring devices. The yellow ones are gas devices. And then, so this lower pink section has a lot of monitoring devices in it. This stuff has to be mowed or burned. That's what I was told, burned off every so many years. And burning off around the gas and the monitoring well doesn't seem like a great idea to me. The DNR didn't like it at all. I talked to Colin while they were there doing my audit about it. And then he brought up a point on this western yellow section here with all the arrows going through it. We have a high pressure gas main that goes right through the property out there at the landfill. That's what this yellow arrow indicates. And then they have the right of way. So they don't want you doing nothing anywhere near that. So also prairie planting, they don't want you doing it near your septic systems. And the two green boxes are the two tanks for the facility. And then the red arrow is a highline pole, which I didn't even think of that. And Colin's like, well, do you really want to be burning near the highline wires either? I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that either. So that's a no-go, that field. The only place I believe that we could do it would be this yellow section I have highlighted to the north. There is a monitoring well in that area. We could avoid that and plant that section. Reason I don't want to plant the field that's a little south of that is because at some point I'd like to put in a processing pad for like the shingles, the brush, that stuff, and that would be a good place for that. So I don't want to invest a bunch of money in planting a prairie and then in a few years decide, hey, we're going to put up a processing pad and mow it all up and gravel it. So this is kind of what I was thinking for that prairie planting and where these numbers come from. It's about 2 acres of area there. And then so I just kind of did a cost per ton per year for what these would end up costing us, because I guess I thought that was kind of what the committee was looking for. The daily cover system, this would be about the cost per ton that we're looking at on that bottom row there. And then it was mentioned the additional testing of houses surrounding the landfill within, I think it was a mile radius. That was 8 additional houses. So that was the first line item under additional testing was just the current testing requirements that we test all our monitoring devices and the Sue Williams house for. That would be an additional $2,400 a year. If we added PFAS testing to our monitoring devices as well as the neighboring homes, that the increase is $22,800 per year for our sampling. So that is then broke down per cost per ton. So then that would be a total annual cost per ton of anywhere from just under $4 down to $260 once we are able to increase tonnage.
So the prairie planting costs are just
that section, yeah, because I know that there's a lot of fields out there. I just wanted to explain why I wasn't looking at those other ones in case that's brought up or people question that. That was why.
How different is what we have growing in grass and weeds and stuff out there right now? How different is that than a prairie? I mean, I was out there, looked like a prairie. You know, that's what it looked like to me. But
we haven't done any specific planting, but there's plenty of natural growth out there.
Yeah, you got your goldenrod, you got everything growing out there. I mean,
we have a lot of milkweed out there too.
Yeah. So why would you want to destroy the milkweed to?
Good for monarchs.
I mean, it's only 12 cents a ton and then nothing after that, but 12 cents a ton and a lot of tons, and like, why mess with
state there? You're going to change it up to create another.
Yeah.
And I was concerned about like to get it started. I mean, you have to spray Roundup. You have to round up the whole field. Yeah. Disc it, spray it, disc it, spray it, disc it, and then plant it. And then it said the first 2 years you have to mow it like 6 or 7 times, and it just,
I would suggest to modify the agreement or the offer that, you know, that we would manage it as a prairie. Because that's basically all the prairie is land that has reverted back to the wild.
Can I interject here? I don't know if I can even bring this up. Being we're talking about tone host agreement, Anna Jo Dorr sent me a letter just this week. Can I read it? No.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, the Vernon County Infrastructure Committee. We have consulted Wisconsin Statute 289.33, solid and hazardous waste facility negotiation and arbitration, and are now of the opinion that neither we, the legally constituted local committee, nor your committee have conducted any official negotiations concerning the host community agreement so far. According to the statute, the time and place of negotiation sessions shall be established by agreement between the applicant and the local committee. Negotiating sessions shall be open to the public. Our committee held our first open meeting on June 4th, 2024, elected a chair and a Joe, and are now legally ready to begin. And then it lists the other members aside from Anna Jo, Dennis Brault, Kathleen Crittenden, and Rice Spann. Apparently, none of our negotiations or conversations with you have taken place in a dedicated open meeting, and none of our communications are part of the public record. So we are beginning the process anew. We expect future meetings with you to be scheduled at our convenience as well as yours, and to be open to the public and to be part of the public record. We will review the action that the Infrastructure Committee takes today and get back to you. Please note that any adverse action you take may be legally questionable given the lack of official history so far. Sincerely yours, Anna Jo Dorr. I sent this to Warren and also to Cassie, and Cassie said that she sent it on to Nikki to review.
I got it.
You got it also? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I read it too.
You did. Okay. I'm sorry. I
Oh, no.
all of you got it. I thought it was just myself. So
All discussions here and everything.
Right.
But it was closed session.
And Martha, Nikki is sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Nikki's currently reviewing. So she stated that we should just let them know that we're in receipt of their letter and that we are currently reviewing it.
okay. Who would follow? Well, I actually did send that to Kathleen Crittenden. She's the one that sent it to me officially. And I did said Nikki is reviewing it. So we should be good with that.
This is a different group than the first group that they put together.
Calvin Rodolfo.
Kathleen is his wife.
Yeah, and they were both on it, but he got off of it, was my understanding, and now Dennis has taken his place.
Yeah. So anyway.
So we're basically, depending upon what Nikki says, we're starting from scratch. None of the back and forth that we did before. It's just like non-existent.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Well, that was what she wanted. No?
I just think that nothing that you've done before, even though the conversations are good conversations, we didn't take any action on anything. You guys didn't take any action on anything. So I guess
they're getting frustrated.
to me, it's not, well, I don't know if they're frustrated. It's just, it's not official. You know, so now that they put their stuff in play, in their opinion, now the conversations will be official. So if we settled on the, 3 things for the existing landfill, then we could put them in whatever, so it'd be done, where we didn't have that option before. I think is what their opinion is that now that they've gave the letter and the officials committee formed, that now we could start an active negotiation process versus just a meeting process, because we didn't really negotiate at the last meetings. To my, we brought up items and you brought up items, and that's kind of.
We put offers out there and changes, and they set back what we were interested in. I mean, we were negotiating.
I think they're good with that, but I think they were more concerned about the legality of it, because we didn't have official, just a meeting with the landfill siting committee and the know, that's what it wasn't posted as. It's just that meeting. I think that's what they would like to see in the
I
future.
mean, I guess it really doesn't make any difference.
I say no big decisions, nothing's been signed, nothing, you know, to me, it's just a clerical error that,
So what's the process then? Do we have a meeting open to the public? We're there and they're there and, you know,
I think when
we've got
when
to,
you guys get to that point, I mean, I think that's what they're looking for is we have a meeting at whenever that just that agenda topic.
I know we talked about having a special meeting
Yeah.
a couple
Yeah.
of months ago.
Yeah.
It's probably
Well,
a
and
good
then,
idea.
and on, even on for the landfill siting committee, I don't know if they were there yet, you know, getting all their documentation and information. The town board hasn't done anything on it yet, you know, so they were just interested in having a standalone meeting on the landfill siting agreement and see what they come up with there in a negotiation with the county committee back and forth. And then, you know, bring that to the town board if they're at that point. To me, that the siting agreement is the least of our worries right at the moment.
so
So what is Nikki's opinion? I mean, at some point, we need to continue the process.
I don't think we've really changed nothing. We kind of know where you can't unknow what you already know, you know?
Well, to me, the exchange of ideas is a good thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And kind of get an idea of what everybody's looking for.
No,
So you can start getting information for it. You
We're
can't
ahead of-
negotiate without information.
we're ahead of the process, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, just now technically the clock starts officially or something. I don't know.
so we need to set up a meeting that is,
Well, but don't we still need to wait till we get something back from
From
Nikki?
Nikki.
'Cause that's what the plan was.
So once we hear from her, we should probably set a special meeting.
And then do you want to meet it at the town shop then, so that if there's public, they're comfortable where they're going?
I would say that would be, we don't have no AC, but pick a day when it's not 110, but
Well, just
January.
put it in there.
yeah, I've been complaining about that for 15 years, but they won't let me put it in. So
we got,
Or here, if we're, at least we'll have be comfortable.
would evening meetings work for them better, I think, because Anna Jo works because I think they put some specifics there were, you know, agreeable to us and you.
Right.
So, and I know she doesn't like daytime meetings because she works. So, and her being the chair,
Sure.
you know, she's going to want, I don't know what days off she has or anything like that, but, does evening meetings not work for anybody?
It's fine with me.
Yeah. That would work for me.
If you'd like me to be present, Tuesday evenings are pretty much the only night I could be there in person. Depending on other nights, I may be able to participate remotely.
Okay.
Well, even if we could meet it, like she said, Tuesday is when you could meet, you said?
Yeah.
So maybe
Well,
we
just
could,
make that the condition.
Yeah.
Be on Tuesday and
right.
we can pick the time that works.
Tuesdays actually, I think, is when the siting committee meets, I
Oh.
think.
Okay.
Oh, is that right?
That would work fine then.
I mean,
Yeah.
so
So whether
whenever
it's here
you
or
folks are ready and
shop.
just, I mean, have it.
Cassie, can we look for a date or do you want to wait till we hear back from Nikki?
We can look for a date. I'm pretty sure I know what Nikki's going to say on this, so I'm confident that we should probably look to just schedule a separate meeting with the town host committee.
Dates together and then we'll see who's available.
What time would you, works for you? I mean,
What do you think?
They usually meet at
Evening,
6:30,
well,
I think.
I know he works and it's a ways off, so it's like.
I think.
Oh, I can adjust to
You
what.
can adjust. You say 6:30 they,
I think that's when they usually meet,
Yep.
5:30, 6:30.
You know that Anna Jo is going to be out of town.
Yeah, next week she's gone.
You might just want to ask them to propose some dates and give them some alternative dates and see if.
Do they have like a monthly meeting, a weekly meeting?
The siting committee has been meeting, I think, on a weekly basis, trying to figure out what they should do, because it's a new process to everybody. But town board only meets once a month, and we meet on Thursdays. So Tuesday nights would work fine for town board if they come.
Why don't I can, I'll reach out to Anna Jo and try to get something scheduled for Tuesday evening. If nobody has any, like, I can't do Tuesdays before 5 or whatever here, then I at least can have an idea where you guys are at. Tuesday for Cassie, and then Anna Jo would know what her committee's kind of availability is.
Sure. That
Just
sounds good.
it's
If you
not
don't mind.
next week.
Yeah, if you don't mind reaching out to her, that'd be great.
Were you talking like the end of July then, or 1st of August, or what were we?
I mean, I don't know. I guess whenever.
I guess I have nothing other than the 16th we're gone, so
Okay.
23rd, 30th.
And it kind of sounds like Anna Jo's gone next week too, so.
No, I don't know. I just know I was at their meeting and she said I'm going to be gone for
Right.
this date to that date,
I mean,
but I can't remember.
probably
what it
could, but-
was. So it was like 10 days.
We'll be
Okay.
in Door County, so.
Oh, lucky.
It's
Cherries are
the annual run for cherries, that's what it's for.
Oh, can I put an order in?
Yeah, I'll bring them back if you want.
Oh, sure.
Just have to know what kind.
I guess, I mean, what is today, the 9th? I mean, it would be kind of nice to get it by the end of the month. We got a few weeks, but if that's not workable, I guess it'd be early August then.
23rd or 30th, maybe. Either one
Yeah.
works for me.
Yeah, I'm open 23rd and 30th.
6:30. I don't,
Does that give you enough time to get back? Well,
I'll adjust to whatever.
okay.
you say your new meetings are usually 6:30?
Yeah, I've just been to one meeting.
Okay.
It was at 6:30,
Okay.
I think, but I can't remember what day of the week it was.
I'll work around it.
I'll be in touch. I'll reach out to her and see what, and we'll go from there.
We'll either be starting from scratch or continuing on, depending upon,
Well, but
it makes no
but
difference.
there's a few items in there that were agreeable, so we
Right.
can at least use that as a starting point and,
Well, and the spreader, if you get more information on that by that time.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got their list, right? Like that was kind of the list that was presented, things they're looking for. We've done a lot of work on trying to see if that is stuff we can implement. Like, I don't think it's back to zero.
Right.
They're not going to change all that stuff and we're not going to, so I guess, I don't know that we'd be at zero, but I think we've got a lot more information than, when we originally received the requests. So.
And I think if we can eliminate garbage in there, I mean, I wouldn't love having that happen at my place either if I live next door. So if we could do something like that to eliminate it, that to me would be a big plus for them.
I know before we talked about what mediation would cost. Did you ever get a number on that roughly?
I did not.
I did hear a number from somebody.
Cassie, did you happen to talk to Nikki about that at all?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Cost of mediation?
No, I don't have an estimate on it.
Motion to adjourn.
Next meeting date?
Okay, now August 13th does anybody have any conflicts with, that's the primary, right? As far as, does anybody work at the polls? No? I do, but I don't have to. I think they have enough help.
Did they split them in there too? So you go morning and afternoon?
No, we do all
You
day.
do all day?
Yeah, it gets to be really long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that extra hour they added a few years back.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I like to be at the busy ones.
Yeah.
Because then it goes fast, but it's like November.
oh, that'll be great.
That'll be nuts.
So August 13th is okay then?
That works.
Works for me.
I'll just say I can't.
I'll come after. Get out of some of it anyway.
No, once you're there, you can't leave.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you can't come late either?
No.
Once when you miss the training or whatever, morning hoorah.
No, it's just, I don't know. I
That's the way
think
they
it's
do it.
different each township, but once you're there, you can't even go out for lunch or anything.
I think that must be because they carry lunch in and stuff, so they don't have to go, because we're out in the middle of nowhere where they'd have to go a long ways for lunch too.
But I know my sister said in Shakespeare, they do half shifts,
We do in Harmony too, they make that available.
which is kind of nice.
And that's pretty township ruling.
Yeah.
Well, you always have to have 3 people present.
Yeah.
If somebody steps out, you can't have any voting until that third person is paid. That's why. No shenanigans.
Yeah. Are
We
you
haven't
done?
adjourned yet.
I haven't heard it.
Charlie made a motion.
Okay, Charlie,
I'll second.
All in favor to adjourn?
Yeah.
I-
Right.